Hello and welcome to episode number 122 of the Wise Guys podcast. I am your host, Brandon Capozziello. Here with me today, as always, is Mr. Justin Ray. Am I pointing at you, Justin, or?
No, you're not. You're pointing at something else. Yeah,
okay,
there we
now
go.
on my screen. I'm not pointing at anything now. But we are here to discuss where will Jonathan Taylor end up. He has requested a trade a couple weeks ago. The Colts have finally given him permission to seek this trade. He has till August 29th, which is 5 days away, Justin. We're also going to dive into, is it do or die for one Baker Mayfield? My boy, Baker, named the starting quarterback of the Buccaneers 2 days ago or yesterday. Is it do or die time for Baker? We're going to talk, is the Trey Lance trade, Justin, the worst in NFL history? He has now been slotted as the third string quarterback on the San Francisco 49ers. We're also going to dive into, is winning and losing a quarterback stat? Now, if you've been following the show, you know that Brandon is a big proponent that winning and losing is a quarterback stat. Justin's on the other end of the pendulum. We're going to debate it here today for you. We're also going to give you another edition of NFL Hall of Famer, yes or no. I had a real fun time doing it last time. We're going to give it to you again. And then at the end, I'm going to dive into UFC Singapore this Saturday morning in America. In the East Coast, the prelims start at 5 a.m. Main cards start at 8 a.m. But, Justin Ray, how are you doing this fine August 24th, 2023 on a Thursday morning?
You know, I'm in a very, very good mood. I feel like every time I start these things, there's something that like pissed me off that drives me nuts, like the Yankees or something like that. Aaron Judge hit 3 home runs last night. That's a hell of a game. But also, I got invited last night to go play some baseball up in Randall's Island, scrimmage with my cousin and his team. I went 1-for-1 with a triple. It was a bomb. So I felt good. I caught the last 2 innings at catcher. So feeling good. And I'm representing my adult league team right now, the Hudson Hurricanes. See this? Got to get you guys some merch. Got to put Brandon on with some stuff. But I'm doing good, man. Ready to go. How you feeling, bro?
I'm doing great as always. Can't complain. So, Justin, I wanted to ask you 2 questions before we dive into today's show.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching something that you had requested me to watch. I only got 2 episodes through.
Okay.
It's the untold stories of the Florida Gators team.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Swamp what?
I think Swamp. Was it Swamp Monsters? No.
Swamp something.
Yeah, Swamp.
I can't believe I'm butchering it. I watched the last 2 episodes. Might have been Swamp Team. And it got me thinking, right? Seeing Tim Tebow, man, what a time that was with Tebow, especially in the NFL. That year, I mean, that's when I first fell in love with that's when I first was falling in love with football.
Mm-hmm.
Not for Tebow, but for my Patriots. But watching Tebow on the rise, first falling in love with sports debate shows. That's when First Take really dove off with Skip Bayless every day. He's just a winner, baby. And Stephen A. saying he can't throw the football. He's not a passer. Skip always just saying he just wins at the end of the game, though. He's just a winner. And fucking Tim Tebow was just a pure winner. But I don't know how many episodes you watched, Justin, but it got me thinking of, who are the greatest, not leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are the greatest motivators in maybe sports history? And 2 names came to mind. Ray Lewis. When Ray Lewis was, I remember I forget which Madden it was, Justin. You're probably going to remember the one where he did the intro and he would talk. It just got you fired the fuck up.
I forgot all about that.
I think it was 11 or 12 or something, but it just got you fired up. And then Tim Tebow. His ability to galvanize a team that was putrid in the Broncos and he literally is just a winner.
Yeah,
and he motivates you to win. So I just wanted to ask you that. Who are the greatest motivators that come to mind in sports?
Honestly, that's a tough one because you named the one person that instantly I think of immediately. But I think of honestly, there's people that a lot of guys don't think about. I remember back in, I don't know if it was 2012, but the San Francisco Giants were going on a run, I think, and they were down and out. And they had a player named Hunter Pence. Hunter Pence was this quirky dude. If you watch him play baseball, he does everything so unconventional, but he played the game so well. And I think he was a great motivator. He's one of the great motivators in baseball alone that a lot of people probably don't talk about. He gave this speech in the dugout, just pumped up his entire team, and they went out into the field and won a big game. So Hunter Pence is some guy that comes to my mind. That's a sleeper. And then, of course, like you said, the Tim Tebows of the world, just the passion that he played with game in and game out. You don't see that often. And it's funny. So watching that documentary, which actually I'll dive into a couple of my thoughts on it, but watching that, you see how much he just eats and sleeps football. You know, no matter how successful that those Gators teams were, they were going out. He was staying home. Brandon Spike said it. There's a quote. He was like, he wasn't going out with us. He was he either had his Bible in his hand or his playbook in his hand. He was just all about that, you know. Like they used to even test how how committed he was to the game. And they have some funny stories, I think, when you get to like episode 3. But yeah, so I'd say Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow.
So yeah, I mean the two that just instantly came to mind, like I said, was Ray Lewis and Tim Tebow. Those guys they fired me up. They made me want to run through a brick wall. So I just only imagine.
So are you enjoying the documentary?
Yeah, it's good so far. Two episodes through. They haven't mentioned Aaron Hernandez yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they do.
He's coming up, but that's part of what I was gonna say about the documentary. Is it's a bit disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. So part of what made me love college football, or what got me into college football remotely, was the Gators team. I followed Tim Tebow through college. I was a Gators fan when I was a little one, and I still root on my Gators. But I would say it was a disappointment, because while it's a good documentary highlighting the successes of the Florida team, the whole point of it is untold stories. I wanted the dark. I wanted the real untold stuff to find out just how crazy that team was, because that's what kind of made that team what it was. It was all those personalities and how different it was. I'm only 3 episodes deep now. I haven't heard from Percy Harvin, and I haven't heard from the Pouncey twins, the Joe Haydens, or any of those crazy stories that they can go deeper into. Like they tell you they had some wild nights. They had some crazy things going on. Tell me about it.
Yep.
Like Urban Meyer, they kind of paint him out to be some sort of saint. Anybody that knows college football knows that Urban Meyer is far from a saint. So it's those little things that I would love to figure out more. Like, dude, they had Cam Newton on that team. Cam Newton was on one of those teams, and he's probably one of, if not the greatest college quarterback of all time. Well, he's in the debate. He's up there with the Burrows. He's up there with Tebow and on all these other guys. So I just wish that we got more. So if you're talking about this documentary as in it's just to highlight the success of Florida's tenure right there with Urban Meyer, then fine. You did a hell of a job. But the real thing that everybody wanted was those dark stories. We wanted to know more. We wanted to hear from some bigger personalities as well. Like, I really wanted to hear the Pouncey twins. I wanted to hear Joe Hay. I wanted to hear more of Cam Newton's side of it. Like that, it was there was a story, I believe, of Cam Newton in Florida. Like, I think he stole something on campus, and then they went to his apartment or his dorm, and he threw the thing out the window saying he didn't have it. Like,
you want to hear about these stories,
that's what we want.
I hear you. It's I mean, it's called Untold. You know, I haven't watched the Johnny Manziel doc, but I'm hearing that it's like, wild and crazy, the shit that he gets into. So that's kind of like what you're referring to. You want to just see, more of the, untold stories, basically, is what it is. All right, I just wanted to ask you that question, and I'd be remiss if I didn't add. I don't know if you know this man, Justin. I know you were a brief wrestling fan back in your younger days. But Terry Funk, a legend, hardcore legend, has passed away yesterday. Just wanted to say rest in peace to Terry Funk. I tweeted out, I'm not an old school wrestling fan due to being born in 97, but I can still understand the impact that a guy like Terry Funk had on everybody in the wrestling sphere and world. So I just want to say RIP Terry Funk. And I would be remiss, Justin, if I didn't add Today is 8/24. Happy Black Mamba Day to the late great Kobe Bryant. It was his birthday also recently. This past, I think it was 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken. He would have been 45 years old. It's honestly still mind blowing to think he's still not here with us. But he lives on forever in memories, legacy.
I saw a cool little Kobe thing now that you mentioned him. I think it was Trevor Ariza. He posted a conversation that he had with Kobe, and Kobe's personality basically highlighted in that. So Trevor Ariza sends Kobe a picture of Kobe shooting in like a triple team. Like he is absolutely blanketed and he's shooting the ball. And then Kobe's response to him was like, and whoever gets the rebound has a perfect putback, easy putback. Like that's how he viewed it. It wasn't, I'm shooting in the triple team. Nope, these guys could get the easy putback now. So I think Kobe, I think we all miss him, and his presence in the basketball world and what, it's kind of what could have been, and that's the sad thing. Kobe's a legend in our eyes, probably one of those guys that you look at and if you see them in person, you're starstruck. You're absolutely starstruck. He was a hero to many of our time, and still missed, and will always be.
Always. So I just be remiss if I didn't mention those two things. But let's get on to today's episode, Justin. 122, the meat of the matter. First topic of the day, Justin. Where will Jonathan Taylor end up? Right. So we've got rumors that there's said to be 6 teams interested, right? And 2 have made an offer. One of them has been kind of heavily rumored that it's the Dolphins. Dolphins are one of the teams interested, and Dolphins are one of the teams that made an offer. We talked a little bit briefly before air. The Bears have been interested. The Eagles have been interested. Apparently, the Rams, I think, are rumored. The Bills, the Chiefs, all teams that basically need running backs, right? So I say all that. He's got till August 29th, 5 days to find a suitable trade partner for the Colts, which is very weird. I thought it was the GM's job to find the trade, not the player's job, but whatever. I could be wrong, I guess. Where do you think Jonathan Taylor ends up, Justin?
So to touch on anything where you said that you thought it was the GM's job, but this isn't the first time like teams do this where the agent goes out there and fielding offers, trying to see what's the best possible fit and goes back to the team with it. But best possible fit, it'd be hard for me to see Miami whiff on another running back, losing out on Dalvin Cook, a guy that's a Miami boy. So missing out on him, and now another big running back gets on the market where you can take some pressure off of Tua's back. I think Miami would be the perfect fit. Now, is that the fit that I want? Absolutely not. I think Buffalo should be all in on Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, while he's not utilized in the passing game, he can contribute in that field, but he's an absolute horse. And I've been talking we've been doing this podcast for over a year, where I've talked about the need for a big time running back, a need for a guy to be a bell cow and take 25 carries. And so Josh Allen's not the one running, but Jonathan Taylor will be. And I think that will make that offense just that much more dangerous. But there's a lot of teams that you can go with. I mean, I love having fun and going over the options. I mean, you look at Miami, you look at Buffalo, Philadelphia is rumored to be interested, and they have DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny already, and an insane O-line. So you add Jonathan Taylor to that dude's just going to be running through gaping holes all season long. So it's definitely an interesting one, but my guess is going to be Miami. My hope would be Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one to think about, right? Because there's some the Colts obviously probably want a first round pick, right? And I think that they are in their right to ask for that. The kid is 24 years old, Justin, and he doesn't turn 25 until the new year in January. This is going into his 4th season. He's had a historically great season, 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns. Will he ever reach that pinnacle again? Who knows? Did he peak that season? Was that it? I'm not saying he's not going to have another great season, but will he ever reach that pinnacle? I don't know, but I would say that this guy is en route to probably have a couple, if not several, 1,000-yard seasons wherever he goes. Again, you bring up Miami, you bring up the Philadelphia Eagles, you bring up Buffalo. To me, it goes back to the thing, because whoever trades for Jonathan Taylor, right, Justin, is going to have to pony up. They're going to have to empty the Brinks truck, because that's the whole reason he's leaving the Colts, is the Colts aren't willing to give him the contract extension he wants. So it just goes to Buffalo. Buffalo didn't get DeAndre Hopkins because they couldn't offer him the money. They didn't get Dalvin Cook. I don't know. Maybe it had to do with the money. I don't really know what happened there. But Miami, does Miami have the money available? Because they're paying Tyreek Hill. They're going to have to pay Jaylen Waddle. They're going to have to pay Tua if Tua takes this massive jump and stays healthy and is this MVP candidate that so many people are proclamating that this kid is the next big thing, which I don't see. There's a lot of money to go around in Miami. You just brought in Jalen Ramsey. You got Xavier Howard. You got big-time players that you have to pay as well. Paying Jonathan Taylor, is that tough when you know Mike McDaniel comes from a system like the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, where it doesn't matter who the running back is. Yes, is it awesome that you can have a CMC like the Niners have now, and does he upgrade the running game? 100%. But if I can already get a very good production from multiple running backs, why go out and get, a big time one that's going to provide me that much when I'm just going to be paying one guy? So that's where I see with Miami and Philadelphia. Philadelphia don't got no money to go around. They sure as hell don't. They're paying everybody. They got Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith is coming up. Jalen Hurts just got paid. They got no money. Darius Slay is there. They got no money. Bradbury, no money.
You see, I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, because I feel like, with these NFL teams, when there's a will, there's a way. I really believe that.
Okay, yeah, I hear you there,
ways
but I
to
just
move around contracts.
I hear you. There's a will there, and I do agree with that. It's just I don't see it. I don't. So if for me it comes to a Chicago comes into play, because Chicago has the cap space. Chicago would be willing to pay up that money. He would fit perfectly with the Justin Fields. If you're trying to run a, dare I say, Tim Tebow-esque that we were talking about earlier style offense, fits perfectly. So that's where I would go. Is Chicago probably would be a great fit, a great help to a young quarterback in Justin Fields, and they have the money to pay him.
Yeah, so I mean, I understand that they have the money to pay him, but one thing I guess what I don't like about this is Indianapolis probably has such a high price tag on Jonathan Taylor, but isn't willing to pay him like a high price tag player. So I don't know what kind of return they're gonna get. I read an NFL exec said a few of them said like a second round pick, maybe a second and a fourth. Just I didn't see anybody say a first round pick at all. So that's going to be an interesting one. I can see what you mean about Chicago. I guess for me, when I think about the Chicago Bears, and you're probably not competing for the division this year. I mean, at least that's what we are going into the season saying they won't. They can go out there and find themselves a bell cow of a running back eventually in the draft, as opposed to shelling out huge money to Jonathan Taylor when really, the way it seems, the running back market is every team would let this guy get to free agency, let him sit there for a while, watch his the price tag dwindle down, and Jonathan Taylor's going to see, okay, I'm not going to be able to make a certain amount of money that I expect. Until you produce also in the receiving game to the likes of a CMC, even an Alvin Kamara, you can't expect to get paid like them. And now I guarantee we've had this conversation before that I think it's unfair. I think running backs are a vital part to this game, but unfortunately, if your O-line is terrible, you're likely not to have a good season. That's what makes Barry Sanders, guys like Barry, so special because he could operate without that. He just made everybody miss. Um, so I'm looking at his stats right now. Rookie year, he rushed for 1,169 yards and a touchdown. He caught for nearly 300. Um, Second year, that was his monster season, nearly won an MVP. It was an absolute freak year. And then a year where he has some injuries. The O-line in Indianapolis isn't that great. He rushes for 861, 4 touchdowns. Now, granted, I think he only played 11 games that year. So he would have been on pace to rush for way more. Jonathan Taylor is an absolute monster. Whomever gets him is going to be very, very fortunate. And which is why I really believe any one of those contenders, I don't really see the need too much in Philadelphia, but I mean, if you're rich, go for it and get richer, right? So Philadelphia would be a great fit. Buffalo would be a great fit. Or like I said, what was the other team that we mentioned? Buffalo and Miami.
Yeah. Two
So
AFC East teams. Yeah. I mean, going down the list, so of need for running backs, right? Looking at the standings here, Miami, Buffalo, New England's not going to do it. The Jets don't have a need. Pittsburgh doesn't have a need. Baltimore could do it. They don't have the cap space, and I don't think they're going to do it. Cleveland doesn't have a need. Cincinnati doesn't have a need. Jacksonville doesn't have a need. Houston doesn't have a need. Tennessee doesn't have a need. Vegas doesn't have a need. Kansas City, they're always in contention. But again, do they have the cap space and are they willing to give up? Probably not. The Chargers, if they're not willing to pay Austin Eckler, I don't think they're going to be willing to pay Jonathan Taylor.
Mhm.
Denver, that's an interesting one. I don't think they don't. Again, they're a team that doesn't have the cap space to do it. Washington, there's another team. Washington was kind of rumored to be interested because they do, while they have solid running backs, they could be interested in that, and he could really help out Sam Howell, taking a lot of pressure off of him. The Giants don't have a need. Philadelphia, we mentioned. Dallas doesn't really have a need. They got Tony Pollard, and I don't think they're going to be willing to pay up there. They got a lot of other positions to pay up. Detroit, they just drafted a first rounder. Chicago, I think, is the best fit. Green Bay doesn't have a need. Minnesota just got rid of Dalvin Cook. Don't think they're willing to go get another running back. New Orleans is good. Atlanta's good. Tampa probably not. Carolina probably not going to be interested, even though there's a need there. And then Seattle is okay. San Francisco is good. Arizona, he probably doesn't want to go there. And then the Rams, like I said. So there's teams out there. A lot of them, like I mentioned in that little soliloquy I just had, don't have the cap space. So that's why I kind of say Chicago lines up perfectly to go there. But
I really believe that, like I said, if a team needs to make a move, they can make the necessary things. So I wouldn't even sleep on any of those big dogs that you named that were like a Baltimore. I get it. Now, their cap situation is completely different than everybody else. So there's a possibility that he's off the table for them. But, man, could you imagine that? Could you imagine Jonathan Taylor playing in the same backfield as Lamar Jackson? But also, you look at teams like not necessarily Cleveland, but a 2 running back head. So imagine now it's just my mind just hoping for chaos and just envisioning things like this. But Jonathan Taylor to the Chargers. Austin Eckler is an excellent receiving back, but he doesn't have that, that punch as a running back that the Jonathan Taylors do have. So imagine a duo of that out in LA with the Chargers. That offense is already expected to be explosive. So if I saw that, oh my gosh. I'd see like Cincinnati, Joe Mixon has some inconsistencies sometimes. So you add another guy to pack a punch. But there's so many teams that you could, I guess, finagle with, and you could see a fit for Jonathan Taylor. But at the moment, it's just maybe even KC is a sleeper. But like I said, I think Buffalo needs to pony up and go get that big dog, bro. Go get him because you're going to play in some tough climate in December. You need somebody that's going to be able to run downhill. At the end of the day, Tennessee has shown you they can win playoff games in the cold months. Why? Because you got a big bruiser like Derrick Henry just running over you. So you go and you add Jonathan Taylor into that, Buffalo's going to look okay.
Denver for me is sleeper because that's what they're trying to do. is start up that run game again and make it easier on Russell Wilson.
Yeah, we don't know what Javonte Williams is going to look like.
Yeah, coming off the ACL injury. So that's why I mentioned them as well. But a lot of options out there for Jonathan Taylor. He's got 5 days to make a decision, Justin. But moving on to the next topic, one that is near and dear to Brandon's heart.
Oh, yes.
My boy. You're my boy, Blue. If anybody's seen Old School, shout out Old School. Baker Mayfield has been named the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Justin. Rightfully so. This really wasn't a quarterback competition. It was disrespectful to even, similar to last year in Carolina, it's disrespectful to even say it's a quarterback competition. Baker Mayfield easily clears these guys that he's quote unquote competing with. All right. But Justin, I ask you, is it do or die for one Baker Mayfield?
Absolutely is, bro. I'm sorry to say that. I mean, Baker's how old now? 28? I believe he's 28.
Let me find out for you real quick.
Yep, he's 28.
28 years old. He turns 29 next year.
Baker is 28. Has been given starting opportunities everywhere he goes. He started in Cleveland. I mean, he was a backup in his rookie season, came over and quickly assumed the reins as starting quarterback, and he impressed. Second year, didn't impress so much. 22 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. An ugly sophomore year. Get it? Sophomore slump. Third year, I believe that was the year Stefanski came in, and they have a fantastic season and damn near almost knocked out the Kansas City Chiefs, and probably should have that game if certain things went their way. He had a fantastic year, 26 touchdowns, 6 picks. Now, that was the Baker that we all expected we were going to see. The year after that, Brandon, and if you're a fan of the show, you have heard his reasonings behind Baker's last year of Cleveland and why things went the way they did. 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Did not look like the guy he was the year before, partially because of injuries, a couple of changes in the organization. And then he goes to Carolina. Matt Rule's his head coach. Recipe for disaster. Probably could have found a better organization that he could have maybe sat behind a quarterback and then stole the reins eventually. But didn't do that. He goes to Carolina, ends up being an absolute flop, gets dealt to the Rams, and actually impressed a few people. He actually impressed in his couple of starts. I think at 28 years old, I feel like we know what Baker is. I feel like that third season was the best version of Baker that we'll ever get. I don't think there's another gear. I don't think there's another gear to Baker Mayfield unless all the things around him are absolutely perfect and then he blossoms into, I'm trying to think of a quarterback that I guess like a Geno Smith kind of resurgence, if he can find that. But there's a difference between him and Geno Smith. Geno Smith sat behind a couple quarterbacks for a couple of years before assuming his starting role with the Seahawks. So I look at this and I'm saying I didn't think the Buccaneers were a good pick for him. I know initially you weren't, and then it seems like you convinced yourself into it being a good spot for him. I think Baker would have been well off just finding himself in a backup role and then working his way up through there, having to force the QB competition in a competitive environment. Like I said, if he went to a New York Giants, if he went to there's a team that I've always said,
Washington.
If he went to a Washington where he could actually fight for that starting job, this was a cakewalk for him. He didn't have any competition here.
That's probably why that's most likely why he went there.
So yeah, and I bet that is. But I look at teams like Miami where Tua has so many injury concerns.
That was
that was your pick. So if God forbid Tua went down, boom, Baker Mayfield steps in immediately with the best offensive weapons he's ever had in his career.
Yeah.
And then we would have looked at Baker so much differently. Yeah. Now, I don't see Baker Mayfield being any better than what he was in his third year. If he's anything close to that, if he is third year Baker, that's great. Tampa has a guy for a few years. But if this is the Baker that we saw in Carolina, if this is the Baker that throws a bunch of interceptions and then not making the right decisions, then quite in fact, yeah, I believe that this is it for Baker Mayfield. I think this will be his last opportunity to just be signed as a starting quarterback. I think he'll just be riding the pine, and he'll be a very great backup for an organization. But I don't want to say that because I'm actually a fan of Baker. I love his personality. I love what he was in college. I love what he brought to the NFL. He's an exciting player when he's on his right stuff, you know? So I'm a fan. I'm rooting for him. But I just am not a fan of him in Tampa Bay.
So you said some things there, Justin. I mean, you bring up, the seasons around that third season, right? But I think what you fail to mention, you're failing to see, and what a lot of people are failing to see, right, that I see, is when he came in to the NFL, his first season in the NFL was a sign of things to come. I mean, you could even go back to college. I have it here, right? It started in college, Texas Tech and Kingsbury. Then goes to Oklahoma, where he had Bob Stoops as the head coach and Lincoln Riley as his OC. By his final year, Stoops was gone and Riley was his head coach. You're starting to see, while he might have had success, but you're starting to see a trend. The lack of cohesion, the lack of stability ahead of Baker. On top of it, it was always never there for him. Then he goes to the Cleveland Browns, gets drafted number 1 overall. Hugh Jackson, the head coach, or Hugh Jackson, yes,
no,
head coach
Hugh
of
Jackson, Wolverine.
I really have because of this, I have negative views of Hugh Jackson. To be honest with you, it's just he made such a dumbass decision. Drafted number 1 overall, Justin Baker was. And he is told on Hard Knocks, live and prime time on television, you're going to back up Tyrod Taylor. Now you tell me, you're the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, and you're being told you're backing up Tyrod Taylor. Really? Really?
But how does that tie into where he is now?
Hold on. It's a story. I'm telling a story right now, Justin. Follow along with me, everybody. Who's ready for story time with Brandon Cat, baby? Shout out Adam Cole.
We know the Baker story.
Okay, but hold on. No, you don't, because you didn't clearly tell it. And that's why I want to clearly tell it for everybody. Made to be a backup. This man, Hugh Jackson, is 8 weeks in, fired. Greg Williams is put in towards the end of the season. Actually does well with Greg Williams. I never thought Greg Williams should have been let go. I don't think he should have been the head coach, but he never should have been let go, because that defense, while still playing well, has never reached the level it was with Greg Williams. They played with an intensity and a fearsomeness that has yet to be seen since then. They bring in Freddie Kitchens, or I should say they elevate Freddie Kitchens, I guess. And that's what you bring up the second year. Terrible season. There's a reason Freddie Kitchens was a one-and-done head coach. A reason for that. Then your boy, Kevin Stefanski, comes in. And I forgot to mention Todd Haley was also in there too as the offensive coordinator. Stefanski comes in. He's able to break out, like you said, with that team and go on a big-time run with them to the playoffs, almost beating the Kansas City Chiefs. A couple of plays here and there. You had the one where the guy fumbled it through the end zone. That's 6 right there, baby. There's a lot of things that happened in that game where I think that was the game where Chad Henne came in and the defense couldn't stop him at the end of the game. He had like 2 big times run, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then you go to the year that you said Brandon comes in and he's had his reasons why Baker had a bad season. The reasons are reasons. They're facts. The guy tore his rotator cuff.
I wasn't coming at you. Okay. I said that you listed the reasons.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And then again, but you didn't clearly list the reasons. So he tore his rotator cuff and had to play with a sling. okay, for the entire season, basically. That's why that season was terrible. Then he gets basically booted out. So after having a career year leading a team that before him, let me get this correctly. Let me get this correct. Where the hell is this stat? Where the hell is this stat? The past 3 seasons before Baker was a rookie, Justin, the Cleveland Browns went 4-44. 4-44. Baker comes in. Pro Football Focus ranks Baker's rookie year as the 3rd best over the last 15 years. Had 40 big-time throws, 7-7 as a rookie. The guy that was told to back up Tyrod Taylor, 7-7 as a rookie, 444 the last 3 seasons, 7-7. Hold on, because I'm not finished yet, all right? In that year, his rookie year, Baker was ranked the 50th best player in the NFL top 100 by his peers. Broke rookie passing yards and touchdown records that year. In 2020, the year that was the playoff run, Justin, right? What did Baker do? 11 games in 2020, 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions over that stretch. Including the playoffs, he was ranked 4th best quarterback in that stretch. 4th. That's top 5. That's pretty damn good, if I'm not mistaken, right? I messed up. Rotator. It wasn't his rotator cuff. Oh. Let me bring up the postseason game, too, because I love bringing this one up for the Steelers fans. I love bringing this one up, Justin. The Cleveland Browns hadn't won a playoff game since New Year's Day in 1995. That was before me and you were even a thought. Baker won their first playoff win, had their first playoff win on the road since December 28th, 1969. Remember that song, Justin? 69. He had a 90 QBR in Heinz Field against those Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, he did that all. Wait, Justin. He did that all without OBJ. He did that in Heinz Field against Pittsburgh. Do you know who wasn't there during that game, Justin? His head coach, Kevin Stefanski, wasn't there. Denzel Ward, the best cornerback on the team, wasn't there. And Joel Bitonio wasn't there, one of the best guards in the game. He did all that. He lost by 5 points to Mahomes in the divisional round. Before I go on, seems like you got something you want to say.
Yeah, I don't feel like any of this is relevant.
All of this is relevant, Justin.
Because all I'm trying to find out, Brandon, is it do or die for Baker Mayfield? I don't need to know all the stuff he did before where he is now. We've seen Baker from 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. We've seen a lot of him already.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what it is. I know you love Baker. I know you do. We all have those players. We all have those players, bro.
It's my boy.
But you sit here and you're telling me, like, I believe you're going on to say he can be better than his 3rd year.
Yeah. If he had...
That's the thing. We haven't seen that.
Okay, but what I'm saying is you haven't seen it because what's around... it's hard for a star to shine when everything around him is crumbling down. It's hard. It's hard for you to survive in an apocalyptic environment, Justin. It's hard, isn't it? Is it not? I haven't even got to the worst of the worst, where he did all that in Cleveland, tore his labrum, and fractured his shoulder in Game 2 of 2021, had to play a harness the rest of the season. After that, his worst season in the NFL, probably, maybe his second season was worse, but one of his worst seasons, they kick his ass out. They kick a number 1 overall pick who did all that 1969, 1995, first playoff wins on the road, first playoff win since 95. All that. gets unceremoniously kicked out. Kicked out for a guy who had 20 plus. You know what? You know what? Okay?
Yeah, that the same guy that you believe is going to
That's
take
neither
the
here nor there.
Cleveland
That's neither
Browns
here
to
nor
a
there. Stop living in the
13-win
past, Justin.
season.
That's neither here nor there. That is neither here nor there. Goes to Carolina. Again, see, you say, I see this, but you're not seeing the whole picture. It seems like you're just seeing Baker in a solo shot, but you're not seeing the whole destruction around him.
I am seeing
Well,
it.
then if you're seeing that, Justin, then you can clearly see, even in Carolina, the first two games, you want to know what happened against him to beat Baker Mayfield in a Carolina team?
The field goals, yes. The field
NFL history was made. This is the first time anybody started off a season by losing the first two games by 56-plus yard field goals back-to-back. First time. Matt Rule. We saw how terrible Matt Rule was. That's why he's out of the NFL now. He goes to the Rams on 48 hours notice, Justin. Historic, literal NFL history again happens, but this time on his favor, driving down the field and scoring a game-winning touchdown. I say all that to say this because you're saying I see it, but you don't really see it. And that's what everybody is. They want to say, oh, I see it, but I don't really see it. And you're being actually a little more respectful than other people because other people are very disrespectful against Baker Mayfield, calling him a bum, calling him dysfunctional, calling him a team wrecker, all this and that when he's not. He is a leader. He is a winner. He is a gamer. He is a guy that you would follow into fire.
Brandon, he hasn't won.
What do you mean he hasn't won?
When
you say he hasn't won, what do you mean by that?
You call people winners that win 4 games in a season. We had this conversation the other day when you want to talk about Deshaun Watson being a winner. And I was like, yeah, what a winner. He won 4 games in his last full season as a starter. So, and then now you want to talk to me about Baker Mayfield being a winner when his only real winning season where he played in the postseason was what year? Year 3.
He is a winner.
That's it.
Again, you're not saying it. His rookie season, he went 7-7 after it. Wait, 4-44.
He had a fantastic rookie season, and it was a sign of things to come. Those things did not come.
He won on 48 hours notice, Justin, against the by a winner. I mean, he's a winner.
I'm sorry, I don't see what you see. I understand. I believe Baker Mayfield can be talented.
Open them wide.
To say that
there's so many quarterbacks just in the NFL. There's I would take Baker because he hasn't done it, even though I've seen him do it. There's a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. I would take Baker Mayfield over. A lot.
Okay.
A lot.
Let's go.
Run it. Let's go to the NFL standings list, all right?
Let's see. How many quarterbacks would you take Baker Mayfield over? Let's have some fun. Tua.
I'd take Baker over Tua.
Deshaun Watson.
No, not right now.
Okay, so we can't have that conversation again.
Okay.
You can't.
I never argued Deshaun Watson going him for talent level. I'm mad about unceremoniously Baker getting kicked out. And okay, but go ahead. Yeah.
Daniel Jones.
I've taken Baker over Daniel Jones any day of the week, twice on Sunday.
Dak Prescott.
No, I'm not taking him over Dak right now.
Jared Goff.
I'd take him over Jared Goff.
Jordan Love.
I'd take him over Jordan Love. Easy. Not even question.
Kirk Cousins.
I'll give Kirk the respect.
Derek Carr.
Push comes to shove, give me Baker Mayfield.
Geno Smith.
Baker.
Okay. Matthew Stafford.
That's Stafford. Yeah, that's not a question, Stafford. You got any more? You got any more?
That's what I got, because then the rest would be people that I would take also over. It'd be too much, like Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm taking him over Baker. I mean, taking Baker over him.
Sam Howell.
Taking Baker.
Russell Wilson.
Take Russ right now.
Okay. Jimmy G.
Baker. I take Baker over, just to name the other guys. I take Baker over Mac Jones. I would.
Wow.
I would. I take Baker over Kenny Pickett. I take Baker over CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Ryan Tannehill. You said Jimmy G. Dan Jones. No, not him. I love Derek Carr. Desmond Ridder, obviously. Bryce Young, I take Baker Mayfield over him.
See, but
I
don't understand that. You're taking him over these young guys that are future.
I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting who I would take over. Who I would if I would take Baker over those guys. I'm just telling you, I would take Baker. I just don't think he's gotten a real fair shot, and I don't want it to end up where Baker never gets his. Where's the fair shot he's gotten?
What do you mean he hasn't had a fair shot?
This is what I mean by you say you see it, but you didn't listen to a word I fucking said.
Fair shot.
Where's the fair shot?
So to have a fair shot, everything just needs to be perfect around.
No, I'm not saying that, but can he have some fucking stability?
So that's what you need. So for him to have a fair, that's what you consider his fair shot.
Stability, everything.
Not the fact that even. Not the fact that even though all the coaching stuff going on, he still had elite level talent on the field and didn't do anything with it.
Where? Which team? Okay. Which team?
So you're telling me those Cleveland Brown offenses.
Which Cleveland team, Justin?
They had the O-line. They had an O-line every time.
Let's stop arguing.
They had a good O-line every year.
You're not going to get away with this. His rookie season, they did not have insane elite talent. They did not yet.
No,
they did not.
First year. Not his first year.
Okay? Second year, if you want to say. Freddie Kitchens was trash. Nobody had a great season except for maybe Nick Chubb. They're terrible. Was that the OBJ year?
I still consider it all a fair shot. Let me tell you
something about his weapons, right? OBJ came in there. OBJ, I'm pretty sure, had 3 surgeries in his time during Cleveland. 3. Jarvis Landry was never the same player in Cleveland that he was in Miami. Mm-hmm. Never. He can barely get on a team now. Nick Chubb was elite. I'll give you that. The O-line was elite. David Njoku never lived up to the hype. What elite? I told you he did it without Bitonio. He did it without Ward. He did it without Stefanski. He did it without OBJ. He almost beat Mahomes. He had lost by 5 points in the divisional round. What do you mean he never had a fair shot in the NFL? What fair shot? Give me the fair shot.
No, you need him to have everything perfect.
I'm not asking for everything. I'm asking for a little freaking stability. The man.
Brandon,
go ahead.
Is it do or die?
It shouldn't be, but in the NFL exec eyes, probably, because they're gonna look at it like you're looking at it, which is ignoring everything around it. But I'm looking at it with a realistic view and saying full pictures, broad strokes, everything laid out on the table for me to see. I don't understand how you look at it, everything I said, and say, this man has actually been given a real fair shot. He was told he was going to be a backup after being a number 1 overall pick. What is that?
Some quarterback.
He's had the same head coach for only once back-to-back years than Stefanski. In the second year, he tore his labrum, and then the next year, he was told to get the fuck out of Cleveland. What the fuck is that? This is bullshit. But okay. Bullshit. Watch, they're gonna make the playoffs this year, and you're gonna be real freaking mad. You're gonna be real mad. All right, let's talk about something that your team, right? Yeah, your team's made some mistakes too, Justin. Is the Trey Lance trade the worst in NFL history, Justin? Let me pull up the trade details. I forgot what it was. I'm pretty sure it was 3 first-round picks, if I'm not mistaken, right? Do you have it up?
No.
Okay, here we go. They traded 3 first-round picks, a third-rounder to move up to the 3rd overall pick to select Lance. So 3 firsts and a third. And I forget, I'm pretty sure those players ended up being like really great players. I think one of them ended up getting switched into Tyreek Hill. I think one of them might have ended up being Micah Parsons, whatever the case may be. But just to ask you, is this the worst trade in NFL history? Because a lot of people are saying it is. I got to be honest. I think there's one that's worse. But I wanted to ask you, is this the worst trade in NFL history?
It's definitely up there. You have some trades like Cleveland trading up for a guy like Trent Richardson.
That was bad.
Yeah, so that's bad. You have
That wasn't that bad because I think it was only one first round pick.
I mean, yeah. So I guess when you think of the value, 3 first round
Saints,
picks,
the Mike Ditka, Ricky Williams trade.
that was bad.
I know it's before our time, but he traded the entire 1999 draft stock
For 3 years of Ricky Williams.
and as well a first and a third in 2000 for Ricky Williams. And that didn't pan out at all. The Chargers traded up for Ryan Leaf. We know how that ended up, but they only traded one first round pick, so it's not as bad as the Trey Lance. The Raiders basically gave away Randy Moss in 07 for a fourth. But I think the worst trade in NFL history, Justin, I think can easily be described as the Herschel Walker trade. 5 players, 6 draft picks was what it took to get Herschel Walker from the Dallas Cowboys to the Vikings. And he was basically in 1989, and he was basically off the team by 92.
Mm-hmm.
The 6 draft picks became Emmitt Smith, Alexander Wright, Russell Maryland, Alvin Harper, Dixon Edwards, Robert Jones, Kevin Smith, and Darren Woodson. I mean, hey man, I don't know. It's definitely up there. It's definitely top 5, top 3. But I think the Herschel Walker trade is the worst because of just you give up 5 players and 6 draft picks, and I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4 firsts and 3 seconds. Something like that. That's insane.
So yeah, I wish we had exactly what all those picks the San Francisco 49ers traded, what they turned in.
I'll find it for you right now. Keep talking. I'll find it.
So the reason why I guess I won't call it the worst trade of all time, I think it's horrible. It was a bad move, drafting a project like Lance. And now, unfortunately, you didn't get to really see him come to light because he was injured. He started the season last year in a loss to the Bears. And we hoped that we would be able to see more, see that athletic ability. But we weren't able to see it. So the only reason why I won't call it the worst of all time is because I look at where the San Francisco 49ers are right now. And now if they drafted Trey Lance and ended up being a 4-12 team or 4-13 team struggling to pull out 8 wins, then I would say, okay, yeah, absolute failure. You know, the guy you invested in wasn't that. But even without him, with Jimmy G, with Brock Purdy, this team is finding ways to win 11, 12, 13 games, get into NFC title games, playing in the biggest games without him. So goes to show you that they were able to live without the quarterback. They were able to live without a guy like Trey Lance. And maybe the answer was right in front of them the whole time. Maybe it was Jimmy. What they could have done, and this is where I'm sure they probably are kicking and screaming about, is what those first round picks could have became. You know,
I have it for you, Justin.
Yeah.
2021 first round pick, 12th overall. That pick went from Miami to Philadelphia to Dallas, and it became one Micah Parsons, who is arguably the best defensive player in the league right now. Somebody that Justin would take 6th overall or 7th overall in a hypothetical NFL fantasy draft if all the players were put on the table. The next one was 2022 first round pick, 29th overall. That one went from Miami to the Chiefs, and then it was given to the New England Patriots, Justin, and it became Cole Strange, who was had a very solid season last year, and I think he's going to probably be a very good player. Patriots are always good developing those offensive linemen. Then round 3, 2022, same draft, the 102nd pick overall was Channing Tindall out of Georgia. Yeah, not a big name. Then 2023, first round pick this past year, the 29th overall, Justin, was Brian Breesy out of Clemson. It went to the Saints landed this pick after it went from Dolphins to the Broncos and Denver. So he is a New Orleans Saint. And that is the draft load of what picks became. So I mean, you're missing out on Micah. That's the big one.
Obviously, that's the big one. But you sit here and you think, like I said, you can think about all the picks that came after that year. What would have been your first round?
Yeah,
pick.
exactly. What
You
they
could
would have taken, because maybe those aren't the guys they would have drafted.
Yeah, maybe that's not who they would have had on their big board. But so there's players that you miss out on, but that's sports. You live and you learn. But like I said, the 49ers haven't paid for it.
No, because they have an elite team. That's why it was a great move at the time, because it was like, okay, we are pretty solid everywhere else. Let's go get that quarterback to basically surround with this elite squad. And you just took a wrong swing. I mean, everybody thought it was going to be Mac Jones. And I think if they got Mac Jones, I don't think they would have been mad if they had Mac Jones at this point. Because I think Mac Jones would have basically just been what Jimmy is, if not a little bit better. He would have been healthier. So that's where I think they swung a miss, where it was like maybe they moved up for Mac initially, but after watching some tape, they were like, shit, if we just take the safe guy and don't take the swing, we might regret it. Let's take the swing when you should have just taken the safe guy and Mac Jones, and somebody else would have been. I don't know who was next up. Who would have been dealt with Trey Lance? Maybe the Patriots. I mean, it worked out for us. At least we didn't, because oh my god,
that would have been
so bad. But talking that, so let's see. We got time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move into another debate topic, Justin. One that I feel strongly about, one I think you feel pretty strongly about, one that a lot of people feel strongly about, actually, is winning and losing a quarterback stat? Or as I like to ask, should it be considered a quarterback stat? I come from the point of view of I believe it is. I believe it should be. Justin is, tell me your point of view, Justin.
I don't believe it is a QB stat.
No. So where we differ, I think, right, Justin, is I am not taking anything away from the other positions, right? I'm not. Or the coaches. It's a 52-man roster. It is a team sport. It takes everybody to win. It's 11-on-11 football, all right? It's a brotherhood. What I'm simply saying is the most important position, the position that impacts the game the most, which is inarguable, especially in today's era, is the quarterback. It's quarterback. Now, that's where I come from, is just that's where I think we differ, Justin. You and I think a lot of people think that I'm probably disrespecting, or maybe disrespecting is not the right word, but I'm slighting all the other positions and players and their impact of the game. No, they impact the game, but they don't impact the game as much as the quarterback. Every position impacts the game, but the quarterback impacts it the most. What say you,
Brandon?
Justin?
You're right. The quarterback position impacts the game the most. But the reason why I believe it's not solely always on the quarterback now, a largest part of the responsibility is, I'll tell you that, but it's much like a major league starter in baseball. They could go out there, they can give you 7 innings of 8 strikeouts and 1 run ball. But if your team doesn't score, you have nothing to do about it. You did everything you could to keep your team in the game, or you could even throw a complete shutout, and your team doesn't score a run in the 9 innings that you were on the mound, and then you go to another arm and the game's over. Things happen. So it's not necessarily always to blame on the starting pitcher or on the quarterback here. So I throw this scenario at you. No, not scenario, but something that we've been talking about. We talk about Deshaun Watson. And the only reason I keep on throwing that 4-win season at you is because I know how much you talk about how wins and quarterbacks, they correlate, that's a QB stat. Deshaun Watson was 4-12 in his last full year as a starter. He threw for 4,823 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. An absolute MVP style season. He won 4 games. You go to guys like Phillip Rivers. You go to guys like Eli Manning that even when they do have their fantastic seasons, they get let down, whether it be by defense, whether it be by lack of a good supporting cast on the receiving end, or no O line. I'm sorry if you hear my dog crying in the background. He's in his cage, but you look at all of that. Those things are the large reason why teams win and lose. It's not always the quarterback; it's the things around him. So you look at guys. Let's look at this situation right now with the Jets. Okay. Zach Wilson got into that position. He started off the season pretty okay. The Jets were semi-successful before things took a turn. Now, one of the reasons why the Jets were so poor is they had an elite defense, didn't have much to surround them on the offensive end. Now, I feel, honestly, I really believe this. If Zach Wilson has more weapons on the offensive end, the Jets probably squeeze out 2 more wins and might squeeze into the playoffs. Look at the Patriots. Mac Jones is not a bad quarterback. Mac Jones is not a bad quarterback, but what he has around him was not equipped to take him to another level, was not equipped to lead the Patriots to 2 more, 3 more victories. It's about your situation, and you touched on it with Baker Mayfield. If Baker Mayfield was in a more stable environment, you'd think he'd be a better quarterback.
Yeah, well, I don't think he'd be a better quarterback. I think he'd play better because I think I already know that he is a pretty good quarterback. Basically, what I think we're differing on is I'm not disagreeing with you because those guys you do need players around you. That's why I started off by saying it's a team sport, 52-man roster, 11 on 11. But again, what I'm going to bring to you is why is it that every time we talk quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. We rank quarterbacks. We rank all-time quarterbacks and we rank current quarterbacks. Why is it for all-time quarterbacks, one of the first things you bring up is Super Bowl wins? Okay? It's because it's the most important thing in sports is winning. Why is it when you go on footballreference.com, I believe the website is, right? Football Reference. You can see, look up any quarterback, Justin. Any quarterback you want. Brady, Montana, Elway, Aikman, Dak Prescott, Tony Romo, any quarterback, Eli Manning, freaking Sam Bradford, any of them. What are you going to see listed there in their statistical layout? Wins and losses. Now, what I want you to do, Justin, is look up any other position, too, on Football Reference. Look up a Randy Moss. Look up a Terrell Owens. Look up a Barry Sanders. Look up a Derrick Henry. Look up a DeAndre Hopkins. Look up a Gronk. Joe Thomas. Aaron Donald. Deion Sanders. You know what you're not going to see? You know what you're not going to see? You're not going to see wins and losses there. There's reasons for that. Is that when we talk quarterbacks, we also talk how well is your team doing? We never, when we rank all-time quarterbacks, what I said, first thing you bring up is wins, right? When we rank wide receivers, Justin, I guarantee right now, if I ask you who your top 5 wide receivers are of all time, Jerry Rice is going to be your number 1. He's the outlier. The other 4 might not even have won a Super Bowl. Think about that. You could even make an argument in today's age. Maybe in the last couple of years, things are starting to change a little bit. But before that, go look at the list of teams that won Super Bowls. They usually didn't have that elite, true top 5 receiver. Or running back. Like there's reason. Adrian Peterson, Barry Sanders. We don't hold it against them. Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Terrell Owens. We don't hold that against them. That they didn't win because they can only do so much, but we do for quarterbacks because they can do so much. That's the difference.
Listen, honestly, that's a you make a great point. But I guess, like I said, it's more so just because it is a team sport. I think it's the biggest team sport in all of sports. So we talk about winning a Super Bowl. That's the greatest team accomplishment that you can have in sports. It literally takes all 52, 53 men on that team and the coaches. So we talk about like these, you'd say how much responsibility is on the quarterback plate. We look at the Denver Broncos last year where Russell Wilson, a former Super Bowl champion, had many successes with Seattle, goes to a team with an inept head coach. And look what happens. So that's why I'm not going to say it's a quarterback stat, because that stain in Russell Wilson's career, which I hope is the last bad year we'll see out of him, that stain isn't directly on him. That stain was because he walked into an organization not ready to win and didn't have the same philosophies. There was a lot of things that correlate to losing than just poor quarterback play.
Justin,
so
I have a perfect example for you, right? And it's in the grandest stage of them all, the Super Bowl. Patriots, Rams. Both teams were elite. Both teams were great. Both had talent on both sides of the football. What was the separating factor of that game? What was the reason the Rams lost that game, Justin?
You're going to blame the quarterback?
I'm asking you, who do you think? What was the reason they lost that game? Was it their defense?
No, it was their offense.
Was it anybody in particular?
I wouldn't put all
Why
the
did they
blame
go
on-
out and get Matthew Stafford, Justin?
I wouldn't put all the
Why
blame
did
on
they
Jared
go out
Goff.
and get Matthew Stafford?
Brandon, they got to the Super Bowl. Let's not
I understand that, but why did they go get Matthew Stafford?
Because they wanted a big guy.
They
and they
believed
got it.
that Jared Goff was the single sole reason they lost that game.
See,
that
but
if they had a guy who was better and could elevate the talent around him, they would have won that game. Tom Brady was on the other side of that field. Gronk was a shell of himself that year. Though Edelman and Gronk were on their last legs, basically. Took one throw to Gronk, get him to the 2-yard line. All I'm saying is that's a perfect example right there of where people lean towards quarterbacks. It's always been this way. When you're a quarterback, you get all the credit, all the praise, but guess what? On the other side of that, you get all the blame and all the hate, because that's just the way it is. And I'll leave you with this, Justin. A quote by one Vincent Kennedy McMahon, the greatest promoter in sports and entertainment history. Perception is reality, my friends. Learn it, live it, love it. Okay, so we got through that. Now let's get on to a little lighter topic, a fun game that me and Justin played last week. I really enjoyed this one, Justin. I don't know how you felt about it.
Mm-hmm. It was cool.
You didn't enjoy it? It was cool. That's
all
I get.
It's cool. I like it. I need to have names for you, though, next time. You should send me the names, and I'll do it for you, because you did it for me.
I mean, I'll answer this time, too. I'll go along with you.
Okay.
That's what I forgot to do last time. It's cool, though. It's cute. It's cute. All right, so are these guys NFL Hall of Famers, yes or no? These are not first ballot. We're just going to go third ballot and on. We'll go a little bit longer, and see how it goes. Devin Hester.
Absolutely.
Yes. You're the greatest return man of all time. You're in the Hall of Fame to me, buddy. Andre Johnson.
Yes.
Yes, I think he gets in.
Absolute monster. So underrated that people don't even know how good he was.
Nick Mangold.
Yes.
Yes, I do too. He was the best center in the league for several years. One that's near and dear to our heart, Justin. Let's not put any bias in it. Vince Wilfork.
I say yes.
I think so too. I think also because maybe he'll get in like fourth, like he's in his third ballot right now, fourth or fifth. But he was a top premier defensive tackle in the league on winning teams.
Very long time.
Yeah, very long time. Steve Smith Sr.
Absolutely.
I think so too. Steve Smith Sr. is a Hall of Famer. Jake Long. I think he is. You're thinking about it. And I've always lived by this, and this is a thing from Skip Bayless. I guess people can call it corny, but I actually really when he said it, it hit home with me, and I was like, that's a good way of looking at it. When I give you a name, Justin, when you think of a name and you think Hall of Fame, it's got to be an instant yes or no. If you have to think or lean a little bit,
Yep.
you're not in the Hall of Fame.
I wouldn't say so.
You don't like that theory?
No. No. I mean, I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But no, some things need thought. That's why
Okay.
people don't get in first year all the time.
So Jake Long, would you say yes or no?
I said no.
No? Okay. I think so. Premier left tackle for a long time, number 1 overall pick. I think he lived up to the hype. Robert Mathis.
That's a yes.
I got to check his stats real quick, Justin, because I'm not remembering them. And I know I just kind of contradicted myself by saying I live by that code, and then now I'm I gotta think about it.
I don't think it's much of a debate.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Super Bowl champ, first team All Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, led the league in forced fumbles 3 times, 123 sacks. Yeah, Robert Mathis is a Hall of Famer. Final person on the third ballot, Justin, somebody who is a big-time entertainer, signed a massive deal with ESPN, one and only Pat McAfee.
He's not a Hall of Famer, but he's definitely a Hall of Fame personality. So
he's not a Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of Famer in your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. He's remember the movie Game Plan, Justin?
Mm-hmm.
Number one on the field, number one in your heart. I love that.
That was a great movie.
That was a great movie.
Some good
very emotional. Remember when he's running, when she has the allergy and he's running through the traffic with her. He's like, oh, like a rock is a king.
I would say they had some pretty good football scenes like him. Man.
Oh, football scene. Oh, you're talking about
the I'm saying the football scenes look good, man. I felt like when I was a kid, I felt like I was in the game, man.
Oh man, when he was in the princess castle and stuff, that was great.
Doing ballet.
He keeps saying, I'm not doing it. All right, so next up, fourth ballot. Couple names here. Kevin Williams.
No.
Another one near and dear to our heart, Justin. Logan Mankins.
That's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
Logan Mankins is a Hall of Famer. Jared Allen.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. Another tough one. He's been up for debate as well. Near and dear to our heart. Mr. Wes Welker.
So I've had this argument before.
Yeah.
I think Wes Welker is one of the greatest slot receivers of all time,
if not the greatest.
It's fun. I'm going to pull up his stats because
I got you. 9,924 yards, 903 receptions, only 50 receiving touchdowns. He's got 6,722 return yards, which is crazy. 2-time first team All Pro, 2-time second team, 5-time Pro Bowler, led the league in receptions 3 times. He's got a record for longest receiving touchdown in NFL history with 99.
I remember that game against Miami Dolphins. I think
Brady. That was Brady's 517-yard game. He's got. Oh, he didn't have because he missed a game there. But I don't. This is where I don't want bias to come in. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer because I think Julian Edelman is a better receiver, and I don't think Julian Edelman's a Hall of Famer, so I can't give it to Wes Welker.
I think Wes Welker is a better receiver than Julian Edelman. But I also think that part of Wes Welker's case, I guess what kills it is that he wasn't a starter for so long. I think he was in the leagues from 2004 and didn't really get his
shot
opportunity until he got to New England in about 2006, 2007. So here's his stats for the years, though. I mean, you got the totality, but just some of these numbers are ridiculous. 112 receptions, 1,175 yards, 8 touchdowns in his first year with New England. Then 111 receptions for 1,165, 3 tutties. In 2009, 123 receptions for 1,348 yards, 4 touchdowns.
And he only played 14 games that season.
And then 2010 misses the 1,000-yard mark, but yeah, he has 123 targets. He misses the end of the season. He catches seven touchdowns. Comes back, has an absolute monster season.
Career year.
122 receptions, 1,569 yards, and 9 touchdowns. This is from somebody that is 5'9", 5'8", 5'9".
Buck 85 soaking wet.
2012, his last year with New England, 118 receptions, 1,354 yards, 6 touchdowns, and then he went on to have a pretty solid season with Denver with those cast of characters.
He had his most touchdowns in his career in Denver with 10 his first year in Denver.
Yeah, and I don't even think he finished the whole year. I think he had, and remember back then in New England, he's the number one guy.
Yeah.
So he was getting all of those catches, getting all of those targets. In Denver, it's Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker and Julius Thomas and company. So I think his peak in New England, all those years in New England, he's a Hall of Fame Patriot. That's probably not enough to get him into
the NFL
Hall of Fame because of how short that time was. But in his time in New England, Wes Welker's a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, he was the all decades team, all 2000s team, all 2010 teams for New England, and all dynasty team for New England. So, yeah. And he's got so many records in the NFL too. Most seasons with 105 plus receptions and 5. Most seasons with 110 receptions with 5. Most seasons with 115 plus receptions with 3. Most seasons with 120 plus receptions, 2, tied with Chris Carter, Antonio Brown, and Michael Thomas. And I could just keep going and keep going. So, a legend in Wes Welker.
I was a big fan. That was the first ever Patriots jersey I owned.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah. Number 83.
You still got it?
No, I actually gave it to a kid that lived at the bottom of my block who was a Patriots fan.
Oh.
I gave it to a kid, and I held on to my Brady.
Do you think it would have fit you still if you had it? No.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up that section. We'll save more for another time. Keep you guys on your toes. Let me ask one final question before Justin might be leaving us before I get on to UFC, or if he wants to say, it depends on what he's got going on. One last question for you, Justin. I thought of this last night, right? For people that are fans of multiple sports, right? If there was just hypothetically a day that fell, right? You had the Yankees in the World Series, the Knicks in the NBA Finals, and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. This would never happen, but all 3 of them fell on the same day. Which one are you watching?
All 3 are they like
at the same time? And you only have one TV.
Elimination games.
Let's say both games are game 7s for the Yankees and Knicks. You have one TV. Once you pick the channel, you cannot switch. Which are you watching?
Because I've never seen it before, I'd have to pick the Knicks.
The Knicks?
Because I've never seen it. I haven't had enough of it. So these years of Julius Randle and seeing us in the playoffs those 2 years, they have been some of the most exciting times as a Knicks fan, as opposed to me being a Yankee fan, seeing us playing ALCS in 2010, 2012, 2017, 2019. I've seen my team on the brink of a World Series. I've seen us win 1 World Series. I've seen the Patriots win a ton of Super Bowls. I want to see my Knicks win 1. So I would take the Knicks in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Okay.
You know I love my guys.
Yeah. What that thinks makes me think of another question for you. As a sports fan of multiple things, what is your favorite moment as a sports fan?
My favorite moment as a sports fan? You know, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of tough. I can name a few. I remember when the Patriots beat Seattle in the Super Bowl, I had a bunch of my guys over. I was in high school still, so we had a bunch of my guys over, a few of them Patriot fans too. And when Malcolm Butler makes that catch, we just go absolutely bonkers, and that's something I'll always remember. But I'm going to say 2009, Game 6 of the World Series, Yankees close it out. I still can recite Joe Buck saying his final lines before the Yankees won. He said, "To the second baseman, Cano, the Yankees are back on top, world champions for the 27th time." I was in about 5th grade, and I remember vividly jumping into my father's arms in celebration, and I cried that night of happiness. I would say 2009, watching my Yankees win the World Series, the only one that I've ever seen them play, and that was the greatest moment I've ever had as a sports fan.
What's your favorite, since you didn't mention them, what's your favorite Knicks moment? I just want to wrap you up. What's your favorite Knicks moment then?
My favorite Knicks moment?
There haven't been, a lot of insane bright spots. So.
Well, you know what? There has. The Christmas Day mellow,
okay.
or those couple shots against the Bulls in Luol Deng's face, one in regulation and then one in OT. But I'd say my favorite, the one time that I felt like as a kid where the Knicks had hope, there was a game against actually your Miami Heat.
Okay.
We had just acquired Melo. We acquired Chauncey Billups, and we had that big three of Billups, Amari, and Melo. And we're in Miami. It was a tough game, down to the wire. I think there's closing seconds. We're in the lead. I think we have the lead by 1. LeBron goes to the rack. He's going for the game-winning lay. And then Amari Stoudemire blocks him right there at the rim, closes the game. And that was the first time in my life as a Knicks fan, the very first time that I was like, my team could win an NBA Finals. And I mean, well, they proved that it was completely off, but that was probably the most memorable moment as a Knicks fan, because Amari Stoudemire is probably my all-time favorite Knick.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I've enjoyed a lot of great, sports moments being a Heat and Patriots fan, right? If I were to say like a moment in time, a singular moment, because it's a football game, right? Like it's more of like the totality of the story of basketball game. I can say, especially this moment, Ray Allen's 3-pointer. I still remember watching it in my bedroom. Basically like the game is over. I remember LeBron going on the rampage after he loses his headband, goes on a rampage, makes a bunch of shots in a row. I still remember the missing shot. That moment in time was probably the greatest moment in my sports lifetime. But I do remember the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl vividly, basically. I was in I was at my friend's house with a bunch of people, and that family happened to be Falcons fans.
Wow.
And I remember that game going through it, right? I was talking big game, right, leading up to the game, like we taking the Falcons. Who the fuck? The Falcons. We're taking Matt Ryan. This ain't shit. We're the New England Patriots, right? I'm confident as ever, as I always am with Brady and Belichick led Patriots team, especially that team. That team was stacked. And then we, everything that could go wrong does go wrong, right? For the first half, basically the first 3 quarters. And I'm not throughout the game. One moment in the game, I forget when what the lead was, but my boy walks upstairs, grabs a blanket, comes downstairs. It's the Atlanta Falcons blanket. He's wearing it like a cape. Everybody's talking. I'm just in my corner, and I'm just like, it's not over. It's not over until it's over. I've seen Brady do crazy. It's not over till it's over. And then piece by piece, just chipping away. Just keep. I'm like, throughout the first half, I'm like, we're not playing bad. We're just making 1 or 2 mistakes here and there. We're just making 1 or 2 mistakes here and there. We're driving. We're getting yardage. We're just making mistakes here and there. And then with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, we score. Then we kick a field goal. Then I forget where the Dante Hightower sack leads in that. The Trey Flowers sack on 3rd down. Brady driving. The James White touchdown overtime. You don't understand the emotions just now, how happy I was. That's why I always call it the greatest game in NFL history. You can't
believe me. I'm with you 100%. Honestly, I think for me, my favorite Patriots Super Bowl will always be the Seattle one. Like 28-3 was improbable. That was just
28-3. Yeah, 28.
Yeah, that was just ridiculous. That comeback, just watching that at the edge of your seat, literally that Brady dropping back, throwing one to Chris Hogan on 3rd down. Like there's so many moments that you can point out.
The Jules catch. I knew that was a catch when it happened.
Same.
I was like, that's a fucking catch. That's a catch.
So that play, watching Malcolm Mitchell, who has just become like almost Patriots folklore because that's exactly what he's known for.
James White.
James White's big games and there, like just that whole thing.
I do the Seattle one. I do remember vividly too. The Seattle one is very. I remember the hit from Chancellor on Edelman where he just gets decked, but then Edelman goes like 5 or 8 more yards, just like he was freaking concussed out of his mind. I still remember the last drive for the Seahawks where everybody brings up they should have ran it, but what about the how did they get down there? Another catch. Justin, I kid you not. Throughout that moment, I was like, here we go again.
That's exactly what was going. Every Patriot was thinking another fucking catch,
another one,
another
stupid, great defense. Could not play better defense. The ball's and it just, and then thank God they made the mistake. Thank God Bill Belichick is one of the greatest game planners of all time. Study that play exactly. I mean, come on, that's why Bill is next level because he does things that you just don't expect, but then when they come for you in the game, you're ready for it.
Listen, you guys, and credits to us stopping Marshawn Lynch there on the play before that, because Marshawn Lynch was just going to tumble in there for a touchdown and some. I believe it was Dante Hightower that saved us there.
It was too. Again. I was like, fuck, we're done, dude. Marshawn's getting in.
So that was probably my favorite Super Bowl just because we were down and it just looked like at so many moments. Wow. Seattle's going to run away with this. It just felt like they kept doing things that we're going to go there. I mean, who was that? I always forget his name. That one receiver that just came out of nowhere for Seattle in that game. Big dude.
I vaguely remember who you're talking about, but I don't remember at the same time.
I have to pull up that game because I have to find out for you because it's going to drive me absolutely crazy. Let's see, because I'll be honest with you, that's somebody that you can throw in a freaking trivia question. This dude came out of nowhere.
Also,
Chris Matthews.
Who?
Chris Matthews. Bro, listen to this. Dude came out of nowhere. 4 receptions, 109 yards, and a touchdown in that game. Dude was they don't have his height in here, but the dude went absolutely crazy. 6'5",
and you know what? 228.
Yo, do you want to know his stats for his career?
They're non-existent.
Bro, listen to this. His career stats: 2015 and 17. That's how many he only played in 22 games.
Yep.
He had 176 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yep. Basically like David Tyree.
The greatest game of his life came out of just bodying. What was it, Brandon Browner?
Was it Browner? It might have been Browner, yeah, because he wasn't bodying Revis, obviously.
No. So he must have been. It wasn't Browner then, because then they made the switch, and then Browner started guarding him, and then he was locked up.
Probably. Okay, so it was probably our third corner. It might have been Kyle Arrington. I think it was Kyle Arrington.
Probably.
Yeah.
But that dude was just roasting us.
Yeah, I don't know if you had this feeling, Justin, though, but I remember last season why it made Seattle the next season so much more sweeter. But the previous season, the Broncos, where they made it to the Super Bowl, and then they got absolutely mollywopped. Now it was depressing, but also hilarious to watch at the same time. But I had this exact thought when that game was going on. I was like, because you know how we lost in the AFC Championship game, a 2-point conversion, a missed a PAT. We wouldn't have to go for 2, tie game, probably overtime, and I like my chances with Brady. My thought was this would not happen to us. This would not happen to Brady. And my greatest example is obviously the next year we go in there, we don't get bodied. We beat them 28-24. My greatest example is the Falcons Super Bowl. The unthinkable is possible with Brady. That would not have happened with us. What happened to Denver that year?
No, I believe it too, because we would have walked into that Super Bowl with a healthy Edelman and a healthy Gronk, which is something you rarely saw. Think about it. In all the Super Bowls we've played, we talk about Seattle, talk about Atlanta. The only one where they were finally healthy together was the one against the Rams.
They were healthy for Seattle. They were healthy for Seattle.
Yeah, that's true. So they were healthy for Seattle, healthy for the Rams, and then the one against the Falcons, Gronk was out.
Yeah, and then Eagles. Edelman was suspended, and then Brandon Cooks got knocked out like the first two plays.
Cold. Yeah. So just having them on the field together, that would have been totally different. So we would have had Edelman and Gronk.
But it kind of did work out because then we got Darrelle Revis for a year, and that's always great.
Yeah. And then plus we didn't have Steven Jackson as our running back.
I was excited for him.
Me too.
Yeah,
but
this guy's going to be able to do something.
But it wasn't good.
He was not able to do something. All right. But Justin, you got to go. Say goodbyes.
See you guys. Stay classy. Brandon, do your thing, bro.
All right, Justin, I'll talk to you later. We're going to have a show this Sunday morning. We're going to have a special guest, and that's it. One of my friends from high school, elementary school, middle school is going to be hopping on the show with us. Big sports fan. We're going to talk Vikings. Justin and him are probably going to get along a little bit. He's a Vikings fan. You guys are going to, you're a big Kirk Cousins guy now, so that's going to be interesting.
I like how you say now.
Now I got to deal with the Vikings too. Well, the Lions are coming, Justin.
Speaking of the Vikings, before I go, some wild shit that I heard. TJ Hawkinson wants to reset the market as a tight end.
I
think I saw you tweet about that. Yeah. So we'll talk about that with your buddy on Sunday.
News just dropped 6 minutes ago. The Giants are trading for the 8th overall pick from 2020, Isaiah Simmons. So the Giants now have Isaiah Simmons on their team. They traded a 7th round pick next year.
That's it?
That's what I'm seeing from Schefter. Let me check Twitter. Isaiah Simmons is being traded from the Cardinals to the New York Giants for a 7th round pick in 2024 per sources.
Wow.
He was in the last year of his contract, and there it goes.
What an acquisition.
Yeah. He hasn't lived up to the hype, but the athleticism is just there.
That's what I'm saying. The athleticism is there. They're trying to become a more athletic defense. Yeah. And Isaiah Simmons provides that. He's basically a hybrid linebacker safety.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a big pickup, but it's a pickup that can pay off. I mean, it's low risk, high reward. 7th round pick, and you can get a guy who can be an insane talent if he's coached, if he's able to, it's probably just get building him up. I don't know what the athleticism's there, so it's about getting to play at an elite level.
I love that move for the Giants. Immediate reaction is just you add somebody that's young, somebody versatile, fast, and explosive to your defense. Now you put him in the right place to succeed. You never know what can happen. Like you said, he never really lived up to the hype in Arizona. So you put him in the right situation. If the Giants can
Brian Daboll, great coach,
successful, then maybe the sky's the limit. And I really
in the division now, Justin.
I'm still keeping my 10-7 because 10-7 was generous to a lot of people.
Generous. You're so disrespectful.
But
I cannot wait for our NFL. I wanted to get this out there. I can't wait for our NFL fantasy football draft. Me and Justin are in the league. A bunch of my buddies, my brothers are in there. JQ, who's been on the show with us, and his buddies are in there. We're going to have a live fantasy football draft. I'm going to live stream it here. Going to have multiple people in the league on the show while we draft live. It's going to be a fun little draft party. So join us September 3rd at around 8 o'clock. We're going to go live probably. The draft is 8:30. It's going to be fun. I'm here to dominate. I can't wait.
Even though he doesn't dominate. But I'm out of here. Stay classy, guys.
All right, Justin. I'll see you, man. All right, guys. Let's get into the UFC talk. Mixed martial arts. My favorite sport. UFC Singapore is this Saturday. Like I said earlier, the start time of the main card is 5 a.m. Eastern time. And the prelims is 5 a.m. Eastern time. The main card is 8 a.m. Eastern time. That's going to be tough. I'm working this Saturday, so I'm not going to be able to watch it super live. But I will definitely be watching the replays. And it's actually a pretty damn good card. Kind of sucks that it's happening this early because it's actually got some pretty good fights. I'm only going to go over 4 fights here. We got the main event, Max Holloway taking on the Korean Zombie. Now, everybody knows what's going to happen. Max Holloway's a minus 800 favorite for a reason. Everybody, if you've listened to any other mixed martial arts commentator, UFC commentator, you know what this is. Max Holloway's gonna. I hate to say it, but he's gonna beat the shit out of the Korean Zombie. In the Korean Zombie's last fight against Alexander Volkanovski, he just the age started to show. The speed is not even close to what it once was, and he doesn't wear the damage as well as he once did. Max Holloway's gonna pepper him. I'm basically guaranteeing a finish. I'm like 95% there that Max Holloway's going to get the finish. Bet the TKO, KO, whatever the hell it is. It's probably not that high of odds, but just bet that because that's probably the best odds you're going to get, minus 800, ain't it? Expect Max Holloway to get the finish. I don't like this fight, that this fight is the one that's happening, but both guys wanted it. 3-4 years ago, would have loved this fight. 2023, not a fan of it. We all know it's going to happen. I want Max Holloway to fight the up and coming contenders in the featherweight division, or some other guys, not Korean Zombie, who he's going to dominate. Sad to say, I think this is probably going to be the Korean Zombie's last fight as well. And it just sucks. I mean, legends go out like that, and this is just not any favors for for Korean Zombie, but he asked for it, he wanted it, and be careful what you wish for. In the co-main event, rematch, Anthony Smith taking on Ryan Spann. Bad blood here. Anthony Smith and Ryan Spann do not like each other at all. Bad blood going into the first one. Bad blood going into the second one. Anthony Smith was able to get a finish in the first round against Ryan Spann with the submission. I vaguely remember that fight. I probably should have rewatched it. I didn't. Ryan Spann, I think, made a mistake in that fight, and then Anthony Smith was able to capitalize on him. And we're going to see. I expect it. Listen, I expect this to probably get finished in the first round as well. I expect Spann to come at him. I expect Anthony Smith to be there, and it's going to be fireworks for the first round. I expect it to end it in the first round. So I would bet, I'd bet a finish in the first round. I don't know if Anthony Smith's going to be able to get the submission again, but hell, fuck. I mean, what has Ryan Spann been doing lately? He's on a one-fight losing streak too. He lost to Nikita Krylov by submission again. Yeah, I would. His last, Ryan Spann's last 6 fights have all ended in the first round. So, yeah, bet finish in the first round. That's what's going to happen. Next up, we got Giga Chikadze taking on Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy. Giga's coming back after a year and 8 months layoff. His last performance was against Calvin Kattar in January 15th, 2022, when he got absolutely demolished and just took a beating. He's going up against Alex Caceres, which is a great matchup for him because Caceres is going to most likely just stand and bang with him. Both guys are stand-up guys. Well, Caceres has got worked on his ground game and has gotten a better ground game, but I expect this to play it on the feet. Do I think a finish is going to happen? I mean, Caceres has only been finished once by TKO, 7 by submission. I don't expect Giga to get a sub. I would say this is probably going to decision. I don't know what we're going to get from Giga. If that Calvin Kattar fight took a lot out of him, we might not get the same Giga, and Caceres is going to jump the I can't believe Caceres is ranked 15th in the world because he was on a big-time losing streak, I'm pretty sure, at one point. Not necessarily. 3-2. He's just suffered a bunch of losses. He had a big-time winning streak and then lost to Yusuf, which kind of cut it off. But after that, he's in his last 8 fights, he's only lost once. And he lost to Sadiq Yusuf, who's a top 15 or 2 in the world. Not many big wins. This is his biggest test in a long time. We're gonna see what Giga's about. If he loses another one, that confidence is going to dwindle a lot more. Because I know that Calvin Kattar fight took a lot out of him, and it could get worse if he's not able to get the W here, because that's 2 in a row and not looking so well there. Next up, I'm looking at Aaron Blanchard and Tyler Santos. This fight I feel like is going under the radar. I'm super pumped for this fight. Tyler Santos hasn't fought since her Valentina Shevchenko fight of last year in June, where she suffered, I believe it was a broken orbital. Aaron Blanchfield is coming off a major win against Jessica Andrade. 3 submission wins in a row, and against JJ Aldridge, Molly McCain, and then Jessica Andrade was the biggest one. She's 24 years old. She's a phenomenal grappler. Tala Santos is coming back after a big layoff where she was recovering. She took Valentina to her limit, split decision loss. A lot of people thought she won. I can't wait for this fight because I think it's going to be fireworks. I think these two ladies are going to bring it. I think the 125-pound women's division is the best it's ever been. It's the best women's division in the sport currently, 125, especially in the UFC. That top 10, even top 15 is just a lot of talent, a lot of good young talent as well. It's going to be around for a long time. I can't wait for these girls to start matching up with each other a lot more. And this is one of the few that I'm one of the many I'm very excited for. Blanchfield and Santos, I can't wait for this. I think this is going to be fireworks, a great fight. It sucks that it's happening at like 7 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning. I wish it was highlighted a lot more, but they're in Singapore, so they're going to have a fun time. And then finally, I'm going to bring to you fights to be made after UFC 292. So we're going to go through it. Sugar Sean O'Malley. Who do I believe Sugar Sean O'Malley should be fighting after UFC 292? I think it's pretty clear that it's either Cejudo, Sandhagen, Merab, Aljo rematch, or Cheeto rematch. Now, if we go down the list, process elimination, Aljo's off the table. Sean has already kind of nixed that, and so is Dana. And Aljo even said himself 2024 rematch. So he's probably going to take a fight, and then if he wins, he can get another one, the rematch. The Sandhagen fight is most likely out of the case because Sandhagen is recovering from surgery, and he's not going to be ready for another 6 months, and then probably another month or 2 on top of that with training and stuff like that. So he's out of the question because Sugar wants to fight in December. So now we got Merab, Cheeto, and Cejudo. Merab is still recovering from his hand surgery. I think he's probably going to be ready in the next month, but Sean's not going to take that fight, and I don't think the UFC is going to give him that fight. I think they want Merab to win one more fight, either against Corey or Cejudo, even though I would like Cejudo to fight Aljo again and get that win back, and then he can go after the world championship. And like I said, I don't think Cejudo, and like I'll say again, I don't think Cejudo is going to be fighting Sean next either. I think Cejudo is most likely going to either fight Merab, or what I would like better is the Aljo rematch, get that win back, and then go fight Sugar for the title. I think so. That just leaves, and this clears out 2 fights to be made after UFC 292 for Cheeto and Sean. You do the Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Cheeto Marlon Vera rematch in December for the World Championship. Let's get it done. Co-main event to Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. Next up, who is next for Aljamain Sterling? Spoiler alert, a little earlier, I think it should be Henry Cejudo. He's beaten everybody in the top 5. His closest fight was Henry Cejudo. It was a split decision. A lot of people, me included, thought Henry won that fight. I think that should be the fight to make next, Henry Cejudo versus Aljamain Sterling 2. I would much rather see it as a main event of a fight night, so it gets 5 rounds. So that's what I would do. Do it in New York, too. I don't know, Brooklyn. No, they're probably not going to do a fight night in Barclays Center. But yeah, just do it. But just do not fucking have it in the goddamn Apex, because that would be so disrespectful to both men. Next up, Wei Li. Who do we think Wei Li Zhang? Who do I think Wei Li Zhang is it Wei Li Zhang or Zhang Wei Li? I always get that mixed up. Zhang Wei Li is how it's written on ESPN's app. So Zhang Wei Li, who do I think should be fighting next? I said it last episode. I think she's going to be fighting Yang Zhangnang, if I'm saying that right. Maybe put too much on the Yang Nang. I think that's the fight to be made because both women are from China. You make that fight, you put that fight in China. It's going to be a massive fight for the Chinese people. You can't miss on that fight. You can't. Even if it's got to be a fight night main event, they're doing it with Valentina and Alexa Grasso, which is fine. You do that fight in China, you cannot miss on it. I know Tatiana is nipping at the heels, but she can take one more fight. She's going to dominate anybody she fights, so it doesn't matter. Get her one more fight, dominate that. Then she gets the next title shot. She can even be in China for the Wei Li versus Yan fight. You have to do that fight. You can't miss. They've, like I've lamented on it last episode, they've missed on so many when it comes to the Australian cards lately, the Mexico card they could have made, the Boston card they just had with no New England Cartel or Joe Lozon. They've missed on a lot lately. You cannot miss on this. This is open goal. This is a layup right here. This is easy. This is handing the ball off to Derrick Henry on the 1 yard line. This is easy with the 1990s Dallas Cowboys offensive line. This is too easy. Next up, Ian Gary. Who do I think Ian Gary should be fighting next? I think Ian Gary should most likely be fighting Wonderboy Thompson next, but Dana didn't seem too keen on it. But I think it does end up happening in MSG. That's the perfect fight. I don't know why Wonderboy would decline that fight. I don't think he would, to be honest with you, even though Dana said he did decline. I think Dana was referring to when they offered the fight when the Michelle Pajera fight fell out. That's what I think Dana was referring to, not a full camp. He didn't offer that to Wonderboy, I don't think. If he offered that, I think Wonderboy would take the fight. I don't know why he wouldn't. It's a perfect style matchup. You got a guy who's a stand-up guy in Ian Gary, a young guy. You seem to be, Steven Wonderboy's talents. He's one of the greatest strikers of all time. If you know the fight's going to be taken out on the feet, why would you go fight Usman, a guy who's probably going to wrestle fuck you to death? That's not a good matchup for you. A guy who's coming off of 2 losses, who's in a kind of do or die moment right here. If he takes another L, especially to Wonderboy, that's 3 losses in a row. That's bad for Usman. He's probably walking away from the sport after that. No. You fight Ian Gary, the young up-and-comer. I know he's lower ranked than Wonderboy, and that's not what Wonderboy's looking for, but it's just a perfect style matchup if you're Wonderboy. I don't know why he wouldn't take that fight. And then I just talked about Cheeto earlier, so he's fighting he should be fighting Sugar Sean O'Malley. So to go over that again, fights to make after UFC 292, Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Chito Marlon Vera for the championship in December, co-main event to Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. Aljamain Sterling should take on Henry Cejudo in their rematch in a 5-round main event on a fight night. Zhang Weili should fight Yan Xiaonan in China for the championship. Ian Machado Gary should take on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in MSG. And that is the fights to be made after UFC 292. And that is going to wrap up episode 122 of the Wise Guys podcast. You guys said goodbye to Justin Ray. I've been Brandon Capozziello. If you stayed this long, please don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, share the content, comment along with us, talk about, mention the topics. Where do you guys think Jonathan Taylor is going to end up? Is it do or die for Baker Mayfield? Is the Trey Lance trade the worst in NFL history? Is winning and losing a quarterback stat? Are those guys NFL Hall of Famers that we went through? And give me your predictions for UFC Singapore, and who do you think those fighters should be fighting after UFC 292? Once again, I'm Brandon Capozziello, and that is all. Late is Gators.